we could put on our tinfoil hats if we want and talk about how there is an agenda against masculinity from I don't know, maybe global cabal that seeks control over humanity. But with or without that, because you can say that's bullshit, it's unproven, I don't really care. What the fact is that there are a number of factors in our environment designed to lower your testosterone. All right, here we go. This time I'm the guy who took the mic first. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ignite the King.
King. I don't know what to do. What do I do?
Michael's like, what? What just happened?
I'm out of control here. Welcome to you new listeners.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell did I just tune into? It's a cross between personal development, men's work, and two frat brothers. Cutting up over a beer.
Although beer lowers your testosterone, so stay away from that stuff.
That's right. It does. Absolutely. So does carrying your cell phone in your hip pocket against your balls. Don't do that. It can lower your testosterone as much as 30%, man. You're microwaving your boys. Stop doing that.
Do you know what the
This is a great intro for the call.
Yeah, I love it. Do you know what the number podcast. One endocrine disruptor out there is? Do you know? This is important information.
Liberalism? Sorry.
Second most interruption. I teed you up too easy.
We welcome all listeners.
Oh yeah. Actually, we welcome that because we're gonna get the man in you going. Fragrance, perfumes.
Oh yeah.
The Glade plugins.
Plugins.
Yeah. Febreze. All the smells, dryer sheets, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Fragrance is the number one endocrine disruptor, and it's everywhere.
Hormone disruptor. Yeah. When you say endocrine, it's like we're talking hormones, man. We're talking about your testosterone, women, your estrogen. Like it's toxic stuff.
Insidious. Yeah. That sort of relates to what we're going to talk about today. You want to help set this up for us?
Yeah. First of all, before we do that, I would like to introduce my co-pilot and pilot here, Dr. Michael Diamond.
Good to be here.
Michael is the co-founder of Ignite the King with me, and a doctor of chiropractic care and network spinal analysis who has been studying the human body, mind, and spirit for decades, which is a lot of your expertise that we lean on in this Brotherhood and on this podcast. Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge you for what you're bringing to the table. So, and then I'm just a guy. I'm Russell.
Well, you're a lot more than that. We say collectively between the two of you, we have probably 50 to 60 years of personal growth in whatever that means in the full spectrum experience and know-how and knowledge. So we're here to bring that all to you guys today.
50 to 60 years. Amazing since I'm only 35.
He's also a liar, folks.
Can't claim that
he's got a testosterone level of a 35-year-old. However, that's actually probably not true for most 35-year-olds out there, sadly enough. Right? It is more of what we're talking about today. But
yeah. So where were we talking? The intro to the call. We could put on our tinfoil hats if we want and talk about how there is an agenda against masculinity from I don't know, maybe global cabal that seeks control over humanity. But with or without that, because you can say that's bullshit, it's unproven, I don't really care. What the fact is that there are a number of factors in our environment designed to lower your testosterone, whether they're designed or not. Maybe it's accidental. Okay. Okay. Sure. It's just an accident. But there's all of these factors, from the Glade plugins to the glyphosates in the food to what they're spraying in the air, what's in the water. By the way, most municipal water supplies are rife with pharmaceuticals, all of the pharmaceuticals, all of the pills and shit that people are flushing down the toilet, guess where they end up?
In your
Your
water.
drinking water,
Yep.
right? So and we're talking about like um antidepressants. We're talking like how many different medications did they find in the local water supply? They did a test, and you'll see, beyond just mercury, there's all of these horrible drugs in the water. So whether it's intentional or not, all of these things are lowering your testosterone. And if we go with the plan or go with the idea, the theory, hypothesis, if you will, that there is an agenda against masculinity, one might ask themselves, who would stand up against tyranny and oppression and wrongdoing in the culture by government officials or authoritarians of some kind? And the answer would be strong alpha men. That's why they attacked masculinity first. That's why they tried to say that masculinity in and of itself is toxic, which is a big load of horseshit. It is the absence of masculinity that is toxic. So part of our work here in Ignite the King, and part of our subject of this call, is how to reclaim your masculinity. And a big part of that is the warrior archetype, the archetype of action. Get shit done. You'll do what you have to do, run through a brick wall if it's required to protect your family, your standards, your values. And how many men are doing that? Because we've shifted, again, intentional or otherwise, into a culture of pain avoidance, into an addiction to comfort. And comfort is the poison. Comfort is the real drug that is lowering testosterone more than anything. So before I go on too big of a rampage, Michael, I would love to hear your feelings on all of that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think just to kind of focus it in for a moment, on a big level, yes, there's this thing where men and masculinity need to be back in the culture as a leading energy because it is the providership, it is the protectorship, it's the procreatorship, right? But a man out there might be listening to this and be like, fuck, I just want to feel good, right? I just don't want to feel like a fucking lazy ass anymore. I want to have energy. I want to have a sex drive. I want to feel like I get up in the morning and things don't fucking ache, right? Like, how do I take better care of myself, right? And it's catching on from a health perspective, but I think people out there really need to understand how all these things work because the reality is all those things that you mentioned in the environment, like we can't necessarily control, right? I mean, we can eliminate certain products from our home. We could, stop using certain things, which is absolutely imperative. And from all the examples you gave, I mean, it's insidious. It's everywhere. There's really not a way for us to totally avoid these challenges and these toxins in the environment. So I think it's really important for men and people in general to understand how our bodies work and how it deals with these types of stressors so that we can actually be in a way in our body that we're not constantly under this full grade stress response, fight or flight, overwhelm that is just ruining health in our not only in adults, but we're seeing it now in children, how 2 out of 3 children are obese. 2 out of 3 children have chronic illnesses that didn't even exist 50 years ago. So we're finally at a place where the generation coming up has a lower life expectancy than the generation before. That's the first time in human history that's ever happened. What the hell is going on? So this is an absolutely imperative topic for every person out there.
Yeah, if you look at like a video of any beach boardwalk in the United States from 1950 and compare it to a video of any beach boardwalk in the United States today, what happened?
Right.
And there's so many different factors. Seed oils in the foods,
right?
One of the
Processed
most
foods.
toxic, inflammatory. Yeah, so all this stuff we've been fed, and it is our responsibility as men. I mean, you talk about warrior. One of the first attributes is responsibility.
Right.
You have to take responsibility for your own health. There's a host of toxins and disempowering agents out there that seek to bring you down. So what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Here's the thought. Eat foods with one ingredient. What's in a bell pepper? A bell pepper. What's in a steak?
I don't know. Those are nightshades, bro. Inflammatory.
Okay. All right.
And that's the extreme, right? I made that joke on purpose, right? Because this can be taken to a fucking extreme, and then that could be paralyzing in and of itself. And I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. It's like, there's, I think it's Dr. Gundry who's like, tomatoes are all bad, right?
Right.
But Italians seem to be doing just fine in Italy, right? They don't because they eat natural foods, whole foods, right? Foods with one ingredient, right? Their bread, they made it themselves. It's different. So, if it comes in a bag or a box or a can, probably don't eat it. If it has a list of ingredients that you can't pronounce or sound like the name of a Persian warlord, don't eat it because it's not going to be good for you.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. If you read low fat, low sugar, or sugar free on a label, you can replace it with the words, there you go. Took it out right out of my jokes. Mouth. Yeah. Chemical shitstorm. Yeah. That's not even a joke, unfortunately. I wish it was a joke.
Yeah.
What they're doing to our health is a joke, right? And the idea that you need pharmaceuticals to be able to live a healthy life is also a joke.
Yeah.
So we take responsibility for our health, right? By putting everything you put in your body, and conversely, everything you put in your mind either gives you power or poison. Everything you put in your body and mind either gives you power or poison. So which is it? Choose wisely. Yeah,
absolutely.
So choose what you're eating, right? And there's an element of discipline, which again comes with that mantle of the warrior.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we don't just eat for comfort. We eat for sustenance. Right. It's like, oh, I want that because it tastes good. Yeah. Okay. Great. And what's it doing to your body? We got to look at the big picture. Right. And again, we go back to that boardwalk picture. If you have to kind of waddle side to side like a penguin to gain any forward momentum, you probably need to lose some weight.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And just to add to this, it's not just weight, because there's plenty of people that are skinny, if you want to call it that
skinny fat
and skinny that are diseased inside, that are still putting the same crap in their body. Maybe their metabolism functions in a way where they're not gaining it as fat, but they're putting inflammation in their body. They're putting stress on their system. They're, not able to digest, eliminate properly. So it can show up in many different ways. Weight and vanity and all of that is absolutely a big one. And just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. I want to just make that distinction.
Look at the minister of health or the director of health in Los Angeles, Dr. Barbara Ferrer. I don't know how she's even a doctor, but she looks like she is an extra off the set of The Walking Dead. Like
most health
kidding.
Ministers around the world
probably
kind of
a
fit
vegan.
that bill.
Yeah. But so let's talk about the gift of pain.
I would
love
to.
Gift of pain.
Yeah,
because we live in a society of pain avoidance. Take a pill for this, take a drink for that. Don't deal with your feelings. Watch Netflix and chill. And we're avoiding pain. Pain is a gift, right? And again, comfort is the drug. Think about anything you've accomplished that's worthy in life. It all required pain. Think about learning to walk as a toddler. Did you just go one day, I'm done with crawling, and stood up and walked and then entered Dancing with the Stars? No. You fell down a lot, and sometimes it hurt. But you didn't lay there and go, well, I'm just going to wait till I'm an adult before I try this again. No, you sucked it up, you got up, and you tried it again and again and again and again, and it hurt. Think about getting good at sports, right? Growing pains. We've heard that talk about the physical body. Growing pains. Guess that that's your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body. There's always growing pains.
Right.
Growth is pain. Embrace it. I feel you wanted to jump in. Talk to me. Talk to me, doctor.
Well, as a doctor, this was one of the biggest topics I dealt with in my practices was pain, because that was often the motivator for people to come in. Something finally got to the point that was uncomfortable, enough where they're like, I need to do something about it. And as a chiropractor in our culture, I was sort of like last in line a lot of times because, oh, I've tried everything. I've been to every doctor. I'm finally going to try you, right? It's like, and that's unfortunately a cultural shift that needs to occur. And I think that's happening in the last number of years, especially since this whole COVID bullshit, where people are realizing they have to be empowered about their health and taking more like proactive action. But for a long time, and still, most people wait until something hurts bad enough and then maybe they'll do something about it. Right. So the pain conversation was definitely something I had to have many times in my practice. Also because practicing network spinal analysis, which was a more holistic approach and a more a wellness-based kind of modality where it wasn't about the pain, it was about being well, it was about getting better. And let me tell you, that's a hard sell. I had many chiropractic coaches that are like, you got to sell the fear of loss. And that was a hard thing to wrangle because I realized people actually won't make change unless they realize something's going to be taken away from them. So it was a real art to be able to describe to someone, hey, if you don't do something about this, yeah, you're probably not going to get out of pain. And the way I would describe it, very simple. Pain is information. Pain is your body screaming to you or sometimes whispering, something isn't right and we need to make a change. That's the body and nervous system inherent design to get your attention. When something is off, and just makes the last point, it's supposed to hurt. When something in your life is off or something in your body is off, it's supposed to hurt. Get that. Right. You're supposed to be like, ding, 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 red alert, something's wrong. And you're like, taping up over the engine light, right? Because you're just I just don't want to deal with it until fucking the car blows up and you're like, well, I guess I got to deal with it. And usually it's more expensive and it takes more and you usually don't get back to where you were. So I know there's a lot to share on that, but that's a huge one. Huge one.
And the statement that pain is information, by the way, I think that's mine. You adopted that one. But one of the things that you say that I love is pain is meant to interrupt your life.
Right.
Pain is meant to interrupt the status quo. It is absolutely telling you something is wrong or could be better or needs to be upgraded, right? And the reference about the engine light, if you guys haven't, I originally heard the joke is it was a woman or it was a blonde, but let's just make it a man for the sake of our audience,
right?
Who takes his car into the shop and is like, my car won't run, something's wrong. And the mechanic looks at it, goes, holy crap, dude, you blew your engine. The oil reservoir is bone dry. Did the oil light not come on your dashboard? Like it should have been blinking, telling you. He goes, oh, that, yeah. It was really distracting and annoying. So I put a smiley face sticker over the top of it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So this is what that pain avoidance mindset is. It's like that pain is bothering me, so I'm going to cover it up. No. Pay attention to it. Listen to what it has to tell you. Pain is information. And, in the sake of martial arts or self-defense or weight training, working out, you can interpret that pain, that information, however you choose. If that pain translates as, ow, it hurts, I should stop, you're not getting very far.
Right.
But if you translate that pain into your power, into your strength, into your fuel, and right, it goes from why me to fucking try me.
Yeah.
Let's go. Right. Different story.
Yeah. Kind of want to tie some of these things together if it's okay for a minute, because we are talking about the warrior energy and ultimately the outcome here is change, right? You want to make some kind of change in your life. Maybe it's a physical thing, maybe it's a mental thing, maybe it's a spiritual thing, maybe it's a financial thing, maybe it's a relational thing, but you want to make a change. And in order to make change, you're going to have to go through the process. We often say in our work, the only way through is through. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to get outside your box. You're going to have to do all these things that you weren't doing before, that yes, on some level you were avoiding. And if you keep avoiding it, that symptom, that thing that you're putting the smiley face over, is just going to get louder and louder until, like you said, you just blow the engine. So it's really important to get how your body works in this way, because I really want to just tie in this piece around the nervous system, because it is literally the central part of our body that coordinates, controls, animates, and gives life to every single thing in our body. And it's doing this 24/7 without our conscious control. It's one of the most amazing wonders of how we operate. And I want to make this connection between the nervous system and then the endocrine or hormones, because we talked a lot about testosterone, endocrine disruptors, right? So when your body is, or your life is met with some kind of interference or some kind of life event, right? Your body has basically two choices. It could either go into a fight or flight protect mode, or it can go into a growth mode or a wellness mode. And often, because of how most people are wired, because of our conditioning, because of the environment, most people go into some form of this fight or flight response. That then produces cortisol, adrenaline, all of these hormones that then flush the body and prepare itself to fight, right? Or flight, get away. And if we stay in this state for a chronic or long period of time, then we're basically taxing the system. It's never resetting. And then that becomes a negative feedback loop where the nervous system is constantly perceiving that threat. We're constantly dumping those hormones into the bloodstream. But yet the threat is never going away, because it's worry, it's money, it's my job, it's my family, it's the state of the world, it's all these things that are going on. So we're never actually at peace. So, and we're not designed as humans to live that way. That's why we have so much chronic illness, right? So we have to get, just the last point here, you have to be able to regulate the nervous system. And part of the warrior energy is being able to have discipline, have focus, be able to take action to condition not only our physical body, but how our nervous system responds to stress. We talk a lot about being under duress, right? And being in maybe a self-defense situation where it's like, how do you keep your calm and your cool when everything in the environment wants to tell you to freak out, right? So whatever level we want to look at this, it is about commanding the nervous system and how it relates to the hormones in our endocrine system.
Super valuable point. And this man is an expert on the nervous system with all of the training, everything you've done. And he's right. The nervous system is the motherboard, the central processing system of the entire body. I mean, think of the electrical system in your home. You want to talk about your hairdryer not working, or your air conditioning not working, or any of the other things that are not working. It's all the electrical system. So if that goes out, you're in big trouble, which, by the way, we can talk about, again, jumping back onto the conspiracy bandwagon, the, grid down situation. 80% of America will die in 3 months because they have no idea what to do in a grid down situation.
Absolutely.
That's another topic. But back to the nervous system being our personal grid. Yes, you absolutely have to know how to reset that. And I love the point that you made, Michael, that people are in this constant red line state. I mean, if you look at any animals in nature, like a gazelle gets chased by a lion, and like that is absolute red line, fight or flight, life or death, run like your life depends on it, because it does. If that gazelle gets away, afterwards you'll see it like almost tremoring or shaking it off.
Exactly.
Because it's resetting the nervous system. And then it goes back to eating grass and loping through the fields. It doesn't hold that stress. We somehow lost that process. So
would you like me to tell you how?
Yeah, please. Please.
Finish your thought.
Tell me what you know. Yeah, it's so we're in this constant state of stress. And again, when we're, living in caves and we've got saber-toothed tigers chasing us, that fight or flight system super helpful. When it's somebody cutting us off in traffic, or our boss at work, or the bills piling up at home, it's this constant state of fight or flight. And you can't redline an engine forever. You can't sprint a marathon, right? You've got to reset. And this is where it's important to get that sprint and to be the warrior and run through the brick wall, but you got to have the rest period as well.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we're hitting on such an important theme here. I love the gazelle example. I often would use just a dog, right? If you see two dogs getting a scrap and you pull them apart, they do the same thing. They shake it out, and the next thing you know, they're licking your face like it never happened, right? We've lost that ability as humans in a lot of ways to literally shake it. That's why even in network chiropractic, you see people move and wave on the table. Why? They're dissipating stored tension. That's how the nervous system is designed. And because of our just like environment now on phone, everything is so rigid and tight. that we don't have that freedom of movement to actually regulate the nervous system. Also a key difference here is that gazelles, dogs, animals don't have the higher center of the brain, the frontal lobe, or if they do, it's a very small percentage of their brain. That's the part that makes us human, is that we have this prefrontal cortex. That is the part of our brain, among many things, is our way that we freeze things in time and look at them. Is this safe or not? Why does this person do that? What's the consequence of this action, right? It's our executive center. So when we get attacked, then we're thinking, well, what's really going on for that guy? Why did he attack me? What's, whatever the stories that get created. Animals don't have that. They shake it off and then they're back doing what they're doing. So this part of our brain is a blessing because it makes us human, and we have these executive centers and higher functioning language, thought, all of these things. But at the same time, it's a little bit of a curse because now we can freeze things in time and make them mean something, which, in men's work, it's like the stories, the beliefs, because at that intense time of a high emotional event, we've now locked in a story about what that means. And then we can play that loop over and over again. And we know with physiology now, just thinking about a trauma or something that happens puts our body in the physiology of that trauma. Right. So we have to, it takes more nowadays to release that, on top of what we talked about earlier, all of the toxins, all of the bullshit that we have to process on a daily basis as humans, that honestly, 100 years ago, humans didn't have to deal with that stress. Right.
No.
So that's just another point of, we have to be proactive in how we take care of this. We can't just be on the boardwalk in your example and everyone's healthy and fit because they're happy. It's like, no, we are inundated now with so much overwhelm, information, data, toxins, you name it, everything we've been just building up here. And to say that, then you have to be even more disciplined, even more. Just sadly, that's to your example before, the Italians and how they eat. Why do Americans go to Italy and eat and they're fine and there's no inflammation? Because their shit's not sprayed, it's not poison, all that stuff's illegal there. And it's like, people go there just to feel good, right? Just back to that, I just want to feel good. I want to have energy. I want to be able to get down on the floor and play with my kids and not fucking be hurting, right? Whatever your goal is.
Yeah, and I'll just add that it's not just I just want to feel good from a comfort hedonistic pleasure thing.
No,
there's a natural desire for homeostasis.
Right.
There's a natural desire for wellness. And it's like, I want to feel well.
Right.
I want to feel vital. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel vibrant,
right.
Which is a natural. We should want that.
Right.
Here in the United States, we got to work for it. Right.
Yeah.
Because we got so many things stacked against us.
Right. And that is a mindset as much as it is a physical thing, just to bring in more of the warrior energy that whatever happens to me, I can overcome it. I can deal with it, because you didn't get well necessarily because you did all the right things. You did all the right things because you got well. And that was a huge paradigm shift for me when I started really taking care of people, was to bring them into this paradigm of wellness. And I know the word wellness has been really just trampled over. Pot stores are now wellness centers. So, that word has definitely gone through the mud a bit. But you have to be in this mindset. You have to be in this state of well-being. Right. You talk about Joe Dispenza a lot, where, just putting yourself in that state is healing. It wasn't because you did all these things. You did all those things because that is in alignment with being well. Right. So often in our culture now, we see men a lot, right? They're reaching for something to get a biohack, a supplement, a weight training exercise, something external to make themselves better. And we were just talking about it before this podcast. It's a mindset. If I'm committing to something like my personal body, then the things I do are just going to be either supporting or taking away from that. Right. But it has to start here first.
Right. Right. And, just to use the saying that I used that we were talking about before, as a man of integrity, my values are more important than my desires. Right. And, that can be when it comes to looking at hot girls on Instagram, or that can be when it comes to wellness. Right. So even if you take out the integrity part, are your values more important than your desires? Right. So it's do you value wellness? This is what he's talking about, that mindset of wellness. Do you value health? Do you value strength? Do you want to be the guy that's fit enough to serve and protect your family?
Right.
Do you want to be the guy that's sucking wind because he had to run half a block? if the shit hits the fan, guess which one's going to die first? So, even if it's not a shit hits the fan scenario, because I don't want to, put you in a mind state of fear, but how about being able to play ball with your son?
Yep.
Do you want to be the dad that's fat and has to sit on the bleachers because he can't engage in life? No, you want to be the guy that's out there throwing the ball, running, and just embracing this joie de vivre, this joy for life. And that requires a level of health and vitality. That requires a commitment to your values over your desires. The desires for pizza, the desires for comfort, the desires for habit. But what are your values? What do you really value? And by the way, speaking of children, if you're a father, your child is modeling your behavior. So guess what? A fat father will lead to a fat son or daughter every time because they're learning your habits. They're seeing, your excuses. Like, well, I had one friend who's like, I would go and visit him, and he's like, "Oh wow, bagels for breakfast." He's like, "Well, I don't eat these all the time." I'm like, "Well,
You're
funny
talking
enough,
about
every
me.
time."
Just say it. Just fucking say it.
I was giving you cover on that one.
I'm outing myself.
You're out of yourself. It's like, I don't need this. Is just a once in a while thing. I'm like, well, funny. Every time I seem to come to visit is that once in a while. It's amazing
Well,
how
you do visit once in a while.
Every single time there's bagels there. I'm like, huh. And that has shifted for you, it's a great, and thank you for outing yourself just to be an example for the other men, because you had gotten into the habit of eating for comfort. You had gotten into the habit of just doing whatever tasted good or felt good. And you've changed that now. You've shifted that, and your fitness is coming online like never before. When we first met, you weren't even going to the gym. And now you've changed. You're doing shit that I do. You're like at the gym at 10 o'clock at night because you committed to yourself that you were going to get it done. And that was the only time to do it. Bravo. Like, kudos to you. And how many of you men are exemplifying that level of commitment that Michael is showing right now? It's like and even with your son, you've recognized, like, what does he want to eat more than anything? Sugar and carbs, sugar and carbs, sugar and carbs. So it's like, wow, I did that. I created that. So now you're shifting that paradigm for your entire family. Yeah. And bro, hats off to you. I'm literally taking it off.
Well, the number one value for us, the number one family value for us is natural health.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Family values, not just as an individual. What are your family values? Have you established that with your family? That's something you've done that I admire the shit out of.
Yeah. Thank you. Spirituality, natural health, adventure, fun, closeness, all these things so our decisions are now filtered through. Does this align with our values or not? Am I going to
how many? Yeah, man. Just let me ask: how many of you have sat down with your families and worked out what your family values are? Powerful. Yeah, you. I'm talking about you guys listening. If you're still listening to this rant, this tirade on health and wellness and warriorship and pain and pleasure
on this topic.
Yeah, if you're still listening to this, guys, have you sat down with your family and said, what are our family values? Because your wife may have a totally different perspective, and you need to hear that. Not saying she's right, you're wrong, but like there's a sacred third where you come together. It's like, these are our family values, and we are going to uphold those values. Yeah. No matter where, no matter what. And how many of you have sat down by yourself and go, what do I really value? And if it's Instagram models, reevaluate, right? Because that's pleasure, that's hedonism, that's distraction, that's disempowering, right? That's addictive behaviors. So, and whatever the drug is, whether it's Instagram or cocaine or anything in between, you only do a drug so long before it starts doing you.
Right.
So, and when it's doing you, it's depleting your life force, your fucking soul. Yep. So what do you value? What are your true values as a man, as a warrior, as an example for your children, as a leader? What do you really value?
I feel like this is a topic that we're probably going to hit on more because this is such an important piece. And I want to really acknowledge that could right now for some men listening, there could be a huge gap between what I really value and where I'm living my life right now. And that could feel like, oh man, that gap is huge. For some of you, it might be real close, totally. And you're on this path. You've been listening to this for a while. You're doing men's work. You have your values laid out. You have your vision, your mission, your goals, all these things. Great. And there's probably a lot of you men that maybe heard these words and haven't done shit with them. And it's time to start in this warrior season because, as Russell and I are bringing you, these downloads, these transmissions, it is in line with where we're at in our Ignite the King Brotherhood. In our group, we are transitioning from that lover energy into the warrior. All the pieces in our group that we have looked at, we're like, wow, this is where I'm giving energy away. This is where I'm depleted. This is where I need to shore up in those hot spots that we talked about: time, sex, power, money, marriage, health. And now it's like, okay, what's my discipline related to that? What's the value I actually have? What's the outcome I'm going for
Right.
that keeps those things in check, not just something I'm trying to get rid of or avoid, because what do they say? What you resist persists, right? So what you're trying to push away just pops up somewhere else in your life. I mean, where have we all seen that in our family relationships and all that? But it's like, oh no, now I'm making decisions based on my values. And in order to do that, there has to be a certain level of coherency in the system. And by the way, one thing you said with the father-son thing and being fat and all that, not only are they modeling and looking at what you're doing on an energetic nervous system level, they are in training to your physiology. I know, as an example, if I'm frustrated about something that happened, my son will then, in a way, act it out as if he was moving the energy for me. And in my practice, I saw that for years, where parents would bring a kid in and said he's having this symptom. And more often the question was, well, what's going on in the family? What's going on in your relationship? You need to be in care. He's just expressing it because they're the most open and vulnerable and sensitive to what's going on in the family dynamic. So kids will express that, and it's unspoken, it's subconscious. And yeah, that's a huge piece to drop in here.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. And yeah, I think there's a lot more to unpack about this, and we'll definitely visit this. This is a good place to start. And, as I always ask, when is now a good time? If you're not embodying these practices, when is now a good time? If you want to develop a relationship with pain, which that's a hallmark of the warrior. Listen to Jocko Willink, right? Not to turn you to another podcast, but like I admire the shit out of a lot of what he says. And one of my favorite videos of his was he's talking about, it hurts, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, I failed. His response to all of it: good, rise up. Let's go. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but it's worth it. Absolutely. Let's go. You want a relationship with pain? Go listen to David Goggins. Right? He'll just tell you to quit being a little bitch. But what we're saying is
little gentler.
Yes. Yes. And not resist. And I love that you made that point about resisting, persisting. Neville Goddard, who's more of a spiritual teacher, talks about the difference between resisting and renunciation, right? I will resist not temptation. I will resist not evil, because if I'm resisting it, I'm giving it all my attention. Like, I'm not going to eat the cookie. I'm not going to eat the cookie. I'm not going to eat the cookie. Where's all your attention? On the freaking cookie. Right. But if instead you're like, I'm focused on my values, I'm a warrior, I'm strong, I'm disciplined, and I'm a model for my family, for my children, for my wife. I commit to having a body that my wife is going to be attracted to. I commit to having a strength that my children and wife and family can lean on. That's my focus. Now I've renounced that thing. Renunciation is turning your attention away from it, right, and focusing on something better. In the Bible, they talk about Daniel thrown into a pit of lions. Like, pit of lions, like there's if you're sitting in a pit of lions that haven't eaten for a while, there's probably nothing more pressing than focusing on those lions. But and this is, again, it's a metaphor, I think, to some extent. He turned his back upon the lions and focused his attention on his light, which was the Lord. So he focused on the thing which he committed to, which he aligned with, which caused him to rise up to be a better man. Right. So you can use that metaphor in your quest against cookies, right? Don't focus on the cookie, focus on who you choose to be as a man. Focus on that warriorship, right? It's different. And I think it's powerful, and it's a great place for men to start. And the other thing I'll just say in closing, as far as pain, obviously it's in doses. We're not suggesting, go step in front of a car. We don't need that level of pain, right? It's like when you go to the gym, you start lighter weights. You don't try to bench press 500 pounds your first day there.
Right.
It's a build-up thing. But how can you start? Just move, walk around the block. Every time, when you eat a meal, for you to walk for 10 to 15 minutes after that meal is one of the best practices you can do for digestion and blood sugar, right? So move, do something. Yes, push up against the edge of pain and then take a little bit more, take a little bit more, take a little bit more, right? Lean into the uncomfortable. That's a hallmark of the warrior as well.
Yeah.
Don't retreat from it.
Love that. Michael. Love that. Yeah. In closing, I would just say, if I'm to give it a practice, I would say get real curious, because curiosity is where the brain goes from freezing something to, oh, there might be something more here I don't see yet. And that will often in the nervous system unlock that negative feedback loop. Because if you hold something as solid, like it's always this way, then there's never room for interpretation. But if you kind of get curious, I'm like, wow, what is this pain trying to tell me? Just even asking yourself that question, like, what is this pain trying to show me? And I know I've had those come to Jesus moments on my knees, like, what are you trying to fucking show me here? Right. Please, right. A little more direct there.
Right.
But if you can have that sense of curiosity, because curiosity will literally is like a pattern interrupt in the nervous system. And that does, in the wiring and the blood flow, it does tap into that higher center of the brain where possibility and options and seeing the bigger picture actually exist. In that stress state, we're diverting blood flow and nerve activity away from here, and we just can't even access it on a physiological level.
Talk about the way to ask a question. I love it when you share this about, you can ask a question a certain way that just shuts down any other possibility, shuts down the brain seeking out the answer. I think it's usually like why can't I do this?
Right. Or, yeah. Well, in our men's work, men will say, why is this happening to me? Or why isn't this happening to me? And we never ask the question why, because it's trying to find an unanswerable. There's a million reasons why. Right. So it's too obtuse. It's too amorphous where I find men, or in my practice, people would sit and spin in that why question. Like, why did they beat me as a kid? Who the fuck knows? Like, it's irrelevant. Right at this point. So ask you a question like, what is this trying to show me? What do I need to see here? What do I just need to be with that has been so uncomfortable? These are the types of questions.
Or how?
Or how is not your.
How can I be? How? Well.
Oh, in this
how
regard,
of what happened,
right?
But like, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I be better? Right? It's like, why can't I lose weight? Well, because you're fat, because you're stupid, because you're lazy. Like, your brain will come up with a whole host of negative reasons.
Sure.
Versus, how can I lose weight easily and enjoy the process? Well, that's a different question.
Yep.
That's a whole different Google search for the mind, right?
Yeah. My mentor used to say that your quality of life is directly related to the quality of the questions you ask yourself.
Love that.
Yeah. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Ask better questions.
Yeah. So in closing, man, I'll ask you this question. Who do you choose to be? Do you choose to be the guy who's making excuses, who's lazy, who's inept, who's, that half-assed, half-lived, potential unfulfilled version of masculinity, the beta male? Or do you choose to warrior up? Do you choose to be the example, not the warning, to your family, to other men? Who do you choose to be? And when is now a good time to start?
Love that. That's a beautiful place to end right there.
Boom.
Take those questions in. Like, share, subscribe. Send this far and wide. Tune in. We got a lot more in this Warrior season to come. Have a beautiful rest of the day. I hope.
All right.